Hello, Move Nation, and welcome to another episode of United We Move podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Beckner, and today I have the very special guest, Kay Mollah, YouTube sensation, Kay Jojo, aka XoXo, which I believe is the correct pronunciation of that. Kay started her journey with us in December of 2019 as a YouTube project to prove that anyone could do CrossFit no matter your shape or size. So she did a 30-day trial, filmed the whole thing, posted this to YouTube, and it's just a great project. And I suggest you go watch this video on her channel. So we talk about that journey a little bit, and also the anxiety she was feeling before even attempting CrossFit, these thoughts that are going through her head and maybe like holding her back a little bit, and how this kind of is relatable for a lot of people who are in the plus size community. So we talk about how you can overcome these anxieties and these confidence issues just by showing up at the gym, just by doing the work. We also discuss what it's like to be this social media icon and developing your brand and putting yourself out there. I had a really great time talking with Kay. This was a fun conversation. So please give it a listen and please enjoy. Thank you for coming on the podcast. I know you've only been at the gym for a short amount of time, and half of the time has been COVID now.
Yeah.
So you've gotten to experience a whole lot or a full range of services in the 7 or 8 months that you've been with us. So you joined the gym in December of 2019, I believe. And it was part of like an experiment, right? A little bit of an experiment. So you are a bit of a fashionista icon on YouTube. And from my understanding, you wanted to show that CrossFit was for anyone, no matter their shape or size.
Mm-hmm.
And I find this interesting because to my knowledge, I don't know if you had done CrossFit before that point.
Mm-mm.
So can you talk a little bit about that project and your experience during those first 30 days?
Yeah. So, I'm a content creator and I like to create content for people like me, plus size. And I've done a couple plus size fitness videos, and my audience really liked it because I feel like when it comes to being plus size, going to the gym, there's like a lot of anxiety with that. Working out, I mean, it's something that I know for me, I want to do, but I've always had that fear of doing. And CrossFit was like one of those programs where I was like, oh, that's something I could never do. It's like a room full of people who could probably bench press a car or something. I can't do that. And so for me, CrossFit was just something that it was definitely a challenge. And it was something that I was just like, you know what? I want to prove that anyone can do this. Even someone who is overweight like me can go in and just start the program, not be like a complete pro and be able to do all the crazy things, but to be able to actually do the program. And so for me, it was a challenge, of course, just 30 days. And it was supposed to just be 30 days. And I can't believe how much I've enjoyed the program itself and just CrossFit in general. And I'm really glad I was able to document it, because I feel like you can talk about something, but if you can actually document it on video of like someone progressing, someone enjoying it, the ups, the downs, all of that, people can really get an understanding of, the program itself. I've actually had a comment recently saying that my video completely like hit home, because they were that person who was in the car crying because of a workout, and they were able to relate. And that's something that I just feel like you can't really do outside of a video,
Right.
And so for me, once again, it's like content that I wanted to create on video. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm rambling again.
Continue.
Lost my train of thought. But yeah, it was just an experience I wanted to document for 30 days and to prove to not only the world that anyone can do a program like this, but also just prove it to myself that I could go in and do CrossFit.
Right. That's cool. So what were you doing previously? I mean, I've, scrolled through your Instagram and stuff, and see that you were exercising or you were doing some variation of exercise. So what type of things were you doing before? And what exactly pushed you over the edge, so to speak, in order to start this project?
So I had a LA Fitness account for like 4 years.
Uh-huh.
So I was doing the whole go to the gym, do like a 30-minute treadmill workout. Nothing too intense. I learned how to use some of the machines, the dumbbells, but every time I would go in, I still felt like I didn't know what I was doing. But I did prep myself. Like I would have like a list of all the workouts I would do and what body parts I would like target and all of that. But I still never really had that confidence as far as like what to really do at a gym and why you should do this workout or that workout
Yeah.
or things like that. So I've had LA Fitness for years, and I had a Friendsgiving over Thanksgiving, and I met with Sarah.
Yeah.
And Sarah talked on and on and on about CrossFit and how much she loves it. And I was talking to her about trying out a new program to see if just to show my viewers that anyone can do like a certain program, whether it was like soul cycling for a month or I didn't have any specifics, but I was just like trying to hash it out or just to discuss it with Sarah to see her thoughts on CrossFit. And so she gave me her feedback, and I was like, you know what, that's it. Ding, ding, ding. We're choosing CrossFit. And that's how I got into that.
Very cool. What about that first 30 days? Like, what kind of challenges did you face early on? Like, I remember working with you at certain points and like seeing you struggle or seeing you have at least a difficult time or a hard time with certain things. So what kind of challenges did you specifically face early on?
So there were definitely mental challenges and physical challenges. Physical things like my lower back was hurting. So my knees were also in a lot of pain. Things that I didn't really expect I would get the first month. I mean, I thought I'd be sore, but I didn't really think I would actually hurt. So physically, I wasn't really expecting that. That was definitely challenging, but I was really grateful to be able to work with Matt, who really took the time and had the patience to help me on improving and feeling better and like different stretches, things like that could really make it more comfortable with my experience at the gym. And then mentally, it was all about that confidence. Confidence is something that I always struggled with, especially at the gym, because it felt like it was a space that I wasn't really, like, not that I wasn't welcome, but I just felt like I didn't belong at the gym. And especially with CrossFit, something completely brand new, I just did not have that confidence. So going in, I went in at 5:30 a.m. So I was with like those guys who really had their shit together. Oh shoot, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No, cuss all you want.
So yeah, they really had it together, and like they were just insane. And so comparing myself to them, I'm like, oh my God, what am I even doing here? So I think those were like the biggest challenges. And to be honest, because I put it out there, like, hey, I'm doing a CrossFit video, that's like one of the biggest reasons why I had to keep going back, because I was like, shit, I told people. So like, I have to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. So what type of successes did you have early on, and especially in those first 30 days?
Successes, I think being able to do things I never thought that I could. Like a burpee could be easy to someone, but for me, burpees, I hate burpees. Like I hate them. But to be able to actually do them now was a success of mine. To be able to lift like more than 50 pounds over my head, things like that I never thought my body would be able to do, that I was able to push myself to do, and I did. There were some workouts before we started, I would be like, oh, I can't do like 3 of those, or I won't be able to do like the whole thing 5 times. And then, you guys would just push me, and I ended up doing it. And I'd sit in my car and be like, oh my gosh, I did that. And I just thought that was great.
Yeah, it was interesting having you in there with the camera and, people. I think people got used to it after a while, but it was funny to see, you'd walk up to the board and you'd have a little selfie action going, a little selfie video, and people wouldn't know what to do. They're like, should I walk in front of the camera or what? You know, so
Yeah.
I think that was a fun experience for everyone. You talked a little bit about some comments you've received. What type of feedback have you gotten on that project from your audience?
It's everything was positive. I've gotten DMs and comments and people just reaching out saying that they've thought about trying CrossFit, but because of their weight, it's something that they didn't really have the confidence to do. They were just able to relate. Like I said, like with video, you're able to capture all these different emotions, be able to connect with your audience in a way where you really couldn't before. And I feel like that video I was able to connect with them in like a deeper way and let them know that, you will struggle if you decide to do things like this, like CrossFit, but at least you know exactly what the journey looks like. I know the journey is different for everyone, but
Sure.
they can have a better idea of that. But it was nothing but positive, and they really loved it.
What do you think is a barrier? You talk about the plus size community. What do you think is a reason why people might not start a program or might not start a new regimen?
I think it's that fear, that the gym anxiety. It's definitely a real thing. I even have a few friends who have it. One of my other viewers commented, like, after COVID, they're afraid to go back to the gym again. They felt like they kind of came over that gym anxiety, but now after COVID, it was like taking two steps back again. It's just that mental fear of not knowing what to do or not knowing if you'll be able to do it. And just for me, I know I didn't want to look stupid in front of people.
Right.
Just having that fear of not being able to do it. And I think, yeah.
Do you think it's the comparison where you feel like these people belong at the gym and maybe I'm someone who doesn't belong at the gym? They fit the part, maybe I don't fit the part. Do you think that's a little bit of it as well as far as the mental game?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. If I look at someone and they look a certain way, I'm like, oh, they know the gym inside out, so they're going to be comfortable and they're going to be confident. Versus someone like me in the beginning stage, I don't think I'm there now, but before I started CrossFit, I was that person who was like, I don't belong here. I don't know what I'm doing. What like that fear definitely sets in.
Do you think you've overcome it?
I think so. I definitely don't compare myself to other people anymore. I do compare myself to like how I was before. So if I do it, any comparisons, it's like, dang, or hold on, I'm getting nervous again. Sorry. Um, so
I
when
have
it
these
comes
hard-hitting
to,
questions.
shoot, what was the question again?
Do you think you've overcome that fear or that comparison or anxiety?
Yeah. So at the gym, for sure, I think I've gotten a lot better. I've stopped comparing myself to other people, and I think it's because of going in consistently and learning. Um, Knowledge is power, and I feel like now I know so much more that I am. It definitely aided into that confidence.
So there's like this whole thing with CrossFit where, and probably exercise in general, I mean, the more comfortable you get with it, the more you're willing to push yourself. And then the more uncomfortable you get with it again. And then so you kind of have these waves of like, you get stronger so you can do more, but it's harder, so it's like this whole idea that exercise really never gets easier because you're always pushing yourself harder. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, I feel like every day I'll go in to work out and I think that it's going to be easier. I'm like, oh, I've done this for this amount of time. It should get easier. And then I'm like, oh my God, this is a really hard workout. And it's just as hard as like day one. But it's like you said, it's still hard. You just get better at it.
Yeah.
Right. And so by being able to come in consistently, I was just able to get the movements down. And like my first day trying to lift a barbell over my head versus like doing it now, it's a lot more natural.
Yeah.
That's because of that practice.
So knowing what you know now, and I know you did the 30-day video, you did your 1 month video, and you certainly had advice for people at that point. but that advice is always going to change. And so like you're 6 months smarter and months more experienced now than you were then. So like thinking about it now, what kind of advice could you give people in your situation when you started? What kind of advice could you offer them as far as getting into the gym or starting a program?
I feel like I'm kind of back to square one again, only because, with COVID happening, I took almost 2 months, a little over 2 months off. And so I feel like I'm back at that square one where my mentality was almost like, oh, do I really want to do this again? Like, do I want to go back to the gym? It's been 2 weeks now, and I'm like so happy I'm back and getting that routine in. And I think the biggest thing is to have that routine, making sure you set goals and have a routine where you're able to accomplish those goals throughout that time. And then I think the more you do it, the more practice, the better you will get. You can't stop practicing. I think that's the biggest thing. Like 1 month, 6 months, 6 years, you're going to have to keep working on that form.
Yeah. What about the anxiety point? If someone was looking to start, you've now done this for 7 months. What can you tell them about that anxiety specifically?
So with gym anxiety, it's something that you're just going to have to push yourself outside that comfort zone. I mean, that's what it is. It's like pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And I think having that your goals and making sure you're focusing on your goals is very important. So you don't focus on your anxiety. You're going in on a mission to set these goals, to accomplish it, whatever it may be, whether it is to be able to row X amount, or to be able to jog outside, or to be able to lift a certain amount. Just making sure you're more focused on your goals versus your anxiety. And then also having a support system is very important, I think. A support system of people who are there to encourage you, whether it is the coaches or some of your friends at CrossFit or friends outside of CrossFit. Someone who could just really hype you up, I think, is very important. I don't think you can do this on your own, especially if you have anxiety. I also have social anxiety. So I don't know if you could tell, like when I am at the gym, it's like a constant battle in my mind of like, oh my gosh, there's people everywhere. I don't know if I'm going to look stupid. Like I always have that battle inside me, and having conversations with people to talk it out and just get another perspective, it really does help with the anxiety.
Yeah. Having the experience you have now, and I understand that the anxiety is like a real fear and a real feeling, but having all of this experience you have now, do you feel like it was justified to be anxious? Do you ever feel like when you're at the gym, have you felt judged, or have you been judged? Or is it just something like you had this fear and then, oh, it wasn't that big of a fear in the first place, or it wasn't that big of a deal?
It's crazy because when you're going through anxiety or that moment, it does feel justified. It's like, oh my God, that person looked at me the wrong way. What am I doing? Or just it definitely does. And so now that I'm looking back at it, like I'm looking at footage before my first day of CrossFit, and I'm literally having a meltdown, just freaking out about like, why am I doing this? And I'm just like, what is wrong with you? Like, you're fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah, that's funny. So have you seen this kind of strength that you're building in the gym and this mental strength that you're building in the gym as well? Have you seen that carry over at all outside of the gym, like specifically with your social anxiety or with other interactions that you're having?
I feel like CrossFit has helped me with social anxiety and gym anxiety. I think, once again, knowledge is power. So whatever all the knowledge that I did get from CrossFit, if I do go to a brand new gym, I really won't have that gym anxiety because I feel like I now know more. And so I feel like I'd be more prepared. So I really wouldn't have that anxiety as much. And I've seen my progress of like how much I've grown as a person and how stronger I've become, that I won't have to really compare myself to anyone else around me because I'm just focused on being better. Right. So that's that. And then with social anxiety is something I'm always going to struggle with. Some days it's hard, some days it's easy. It's just something that I've just learned to cope with. And being surrounded by people definitely pushes me outside my comfort zone, but it also does help me with my anxiety because it teaches me how to like handle that anxiety and that stress.
Yeah. When I introduced you, I'd mentioned I considered you a fashionista. I don't know what you would consider yourself. I'm not down with the lingo, but you called yourself a content creator. What exactly is the purpose of your social media presence?
Yeah, so I started my blog years ago and I just needed a creative outlet, something to put all of my energy in. And the more I started creating blog posts and more content, I started looking into YouTube and YouTube videos, and I just fell in love with it. I love that you're able to connect with people through video. And I went in just to create content, just to be creative, just to edit, just to do something, have my own space in the digital world. I didn't really have a plan. But then looking through videos and even on blog, like different blog posts, I never really saw content created for plus size women specifically. There were
Yeah.
some, not too many. And back then, I did not know how to dress. I would always hide myself under hoodies and baggy jeans and big t-shirts because I didn't know how to dress myself, and no one was really out there to teach me how to dress myself. And so I started teaching myself as far as how to dress my body, and I just documented the entire journey.
Yeah.
So now that we're here, it's basically me teaching myself on how to dress a certain way or how to look a certain way with the body that I have, and then just teaching people what I've learned.
So I'd mentioned to you before we actually started recording, I'd mentioned to you that like I'm doing this podcast, of course, to connect with the community, but also to kind of overcome some of my own anxiety about speaking or putting myself out there in a creative way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so as I was scrolling through your Instagram, I went, all the way down to the beginning. And yeah. So it's really cool to see this whole like history, on social. It's there forever. Um, so this whole history of social media for you, or at least on Instagram, and it started out as like nail products and your nails, and like it wasn't you specifically, and then it goes through. I don't know what the length of time was, but it goes through the length of time. It's like, oh, there's your first photo. It's you.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems to me like, oh, this is you like testing the waters. Like, I'm not sure I'm going to put myself out there. And then all of a sudden it's you and you're putting yourself out there. So what is it like to kind of be your own brand or be the center of attention on social media?
Yeah. So when I first started, I just wanted to create content and just have a place where I would create different things about whatever. So nails, beauty, all of that. It was definitely more intended for like a lifestyle base until I realized there was a need for my niche. There wasn't too many plus size influencers out there. And it really never was a plan from the beginning, like, oh, I'm gonna create plus size content. But it was more like there are a lot of people who are like me who don't know how to dress themselves. So I want to be that person for them. And so slowly but surely, I grabbed that camera and I started creating fashion videos. And you will never find those fashion videos because they're hidden. They're so bad. but, but I think the most important thing is to make that first video, because if you don't, you will not get better. Like you won't see any progression if you don't take that first step. Right. And so it's funny that you say that because I first started with all of like the nail care and the beauty, but then by pushing myself outside that comfort zone and by trying different things in fashion and finding that I really like it and other people liked my tips and really going with it really helped.
Yeah, it's a similar experience for me in for the podcast for sure, but also in just like writing blog posts or emails. I was really super nervous putting my thoughts on in text and then sending it out to thousands of people and then just kind of like biting my nails, it's like, is anybody going to get upset or is anybody to think about me differently? Are they going to hate me now for saying these things or, it's seems very silly to me now, most of the time. Sometimes I write things that probably could come back to bite me, but there's definitely an anxiety there for me of putting myself out there and having people know my thoughts, you know?
Hmm.
So for you, putting yourself on video was probably a little bit nerve wracking too at first.
Yeah, at first it was. It was very awkward. I'll tell you that.
Hmm.
Just talking to the camera, but what you just get used to it. The more you do it, kind of like CrossFit and fitness. The more you do it, the more practice that you do, the better you get, and then you see that progress over time. I feel like fitness relates to so many things in the world because it's all about putting your goals out there, going after it, practicing it, and then improving. And I feel like I saw the same thing in fitness with like me creating content and my blogging.
Huh.
I took that first step. I practiced. I focused on my goals. I could have compared myself to all the other influencers out there and then not grown or done anything. But I was focusing on me and my purpose and what I was passionate about. And I was able to see that blossom.
I think that's how a lot of great things start, where you're doing it for yourself, right? You're
Hmm.
doing it because this is something you need to do. And then you realize that other people could learn from your experience and you get to share that.
Yeah.
So what is it like for you to be kind of that representative of the plus size community?
To me, I'm just grateful that people are here to listen to what I have to say. I'm just grateful that people value my opinion, and I'm just there to be a helping hand. I definitely struggled growing up. I struggled with body image. I struggled with dressing myself. I struggled with confidence. And I feel like now that I'm in a better place, I just want to help the next person so they could be in this place sooner rather than later.
So you'd mentioned something about you did your video to prove that people could do CrossFit, plus size people could do CrossFit. So the prove word kind of sticks out to me.
Okay.
What do you think it is that you have to prove?
For me, it was to be able to do the movements that I've seen people like Sarah do. I
Uh-huh.
would watch her videos, and my immediate thought was, I could never do that. My wrist is going to snap off. Or I could never do this because I can't lift myself up. Things like that. And so for
Uh-huh.
me, it was to prove to myself that I can do this program and not quit. I can do this program and progress over time and see me progress with all these different movements. And if I'm having these thoughts of I can't do it, I'm pretty sure the next person is having those same thoughts. So if I could
Right.
prove to myself that I could do it, I want to prove to them that they could do it too.
Mhm. What other examples of having to prove yourself are there? Maybe not even inside the gym, but maybe outside the gym. Do you feel like as a plus size, you feel like you have to prove something?
Um, I don't feel like I have to prove something, but I think one thing that just comes to mind is just fashion. Um, Growing up, I thought that my people who looked like me or I just couldn't dress myself because of the way I looked. And that clothes just don't fit me right. So I would just wear big t-shirts, things like that. But it was just having to learn how to dress myself and proving that I could still look good with the body that I have.
Yeah.
So I feel like with being plus size, it's yeah, just proving that you could do something that everyone else can, even if it is as simple as looking cute in an outfit.
Did you feel outcast at all? Or maybe not outcast. Maybe that's not that. Maybe that's too strong of a word. But
Yeah, yeah, all the time. I was always the heavy friend. I was always the big family member, and people were always quick to point that out. And for the longest time, it was like my weight defined me. My weight was what I was and who I am, and it definitely played a part with the whole confidence thing. And I definitely felt like I wasn't normal, and
uh-huh.
part of it was because of my weight and looking different from everyone else. Another part of it was with my social anxiety and not knowing how to even communicate with other people. So
Yeah.
I've always felt like an outsider. And then the second I started to invest in myself, whether it is to with my appearance or with trying new things like CrossFit and investing in my health, things like that, it kind of showed that this is how I love myself, right? Because I am putting all that effort in me. And when you look good, you feel good. And I started feeling better. And it definitely showed in my confidence. And I sometimes still feel like an outcast, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I know I'm at a place where I'm worthy. I love myself. My confidence is definitely way higher than it used to be.
Hmm.
And I don't feel as much of an outcast as I normally, or as I did before.
Yeah. Yeah. This is making a lot of sense. So it's like, um, at some point, we all hear things about ourselves from other people. Like we all hear stories that people tell us that ingrain into us. And so at some point, you were getting attention, right? You were getting attention for the way you looked or your size or whatever. And you didn't like that attention in that way. And so you started to cover up your body,
Hmm.
wearing baggy clothes and things like that. And then social anxiety, you don't want to talk to people because you might get that attention in the negative way that you don't want. Imagine that happens for a lot of other women, in that same situation. And so I think it's really cool that you've kind of like, you're coming out of that and starting to show who you really are, and everyone else be damned, and
Yeah.
you can kind of lead the way for other women to do the same thing.
And I want to show other women that I didn't lose 100 pounds to be where I am and to be
Right.
happy.
To be happy.
Right.
Exactly.
So I'm doing all the things that I've always wanted to do by pushing myself outside my comfort zone. And I'm happy, but I'm still, the way I am. It's not, I don't have to lose all this weight to be a happy person or to be where I want. I could still go after the things that I want to do and chase after my dreams and my goals and not let size stop me.
Right. Getting back to stories, I'm a big proponent of kind of like what we tell ourselves is what we are, and it kind of dictates maybe how we move about life. And so your whole brand is kind of centered around this plus size model type of thing. Do you think that is limiting you in any way, where you have this plus size brand, but now you're exercising, so you're getting stronger, you're probably leaning out some as well. Do you feel like at some point that's going to limit you?
So I know I labeled myself as a plus size influencer, but that's because that's just what I am. And I know that in time, when I do see progress and those changes, I am not going to categorize myself in that as a plus size influencer.
Hmm.
But I don't think I'm really limiting myself. I'm just going and teaching and putting content out there based on everything that I'm learning. So in
Sure.
future, I do see myself doing more of like fitness and health and things that helped me to become where I am then. That Am I making sense? You know what I mean? So like later down the
All the
road, if
things
I
you
am
learn along
more
the
thinner
way.
or stronger, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm going to definitely not talk or talk less about plus size fashion and plus size hacks and do more things of like that.
At what point do you think you'll need to switch your focus in order to actually achieve that?
I have no idea. Like that's like to be honest, I've been plus size my entire life. Like
Uh-huh.
I've never been thin. So this is all I know.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm creating content off of the things that I know. And I don't know a life outside of that. So I can't really put a timeline on that.
Yeah. Mhm.
So that's why I'm just taking it one day at a time. There's a video. I think my last video, someone mentioned, "Whoa, you've lost weight," and I'm like, "Oh my god, I know." So it's like I'm just taking it one day at a time and seeing how I'm going to handle it once you can see a bigger change. But for now, I'm just like, I don't know.
Uh-huh. Well, what do you think those goals would look like?
What do you mean? What goals?
Future goals, what do you think they would look like, as far as if you were no longer the plus size YouTube, what do you think you would do moving forward?
Yeah, well, I definitely want to continue to create content because that's where my passion is, just
Yep.
creating and all of that. I definitely see myself doing more lifestyle, focus less on plus size and just more on lifestyle and everything else.
Mhm.
So still doing fashion videos, but we're just taking the plus size out of it, right? But maybe focusing more on health and fitness, and maybe even helping people who are still in the beginning stages of like an exercise journey or a health journey, and being able to help them with that because I was there at that one point. I hate seeing videos of people who are like, oh, this is how you can lose 30 pounds and get healthy when they were never 30 pounds overweight. So it's
Uh-huh.
like I'm able to talk the talk because I've lived through it. So
Yeah.
being able to help people that way.
Yeah. And you're also very actionable, like you said. It's you can say it all, but showing it on video and proving to yourself and to everyone else that if you take these steps, you can achieve this. That's
Hmm.
very powerful. It'd be
Yeah.
interesting to see the bulk of your audience kind of follow along in your footsteps too,
Yeah.
you know? So, like,
Yeah.
if you are moving out of this current framework of plus size and moving into something else, it'd be interesting to see, does your audience want to stay in that mindset? Do they identify as plus size and that's it for the rest of their life? Or do they
Yeah.
want to follow along with your journey and kind of move forward in another way?
Yeah, I definitely think my audience for sure will change. If someone is following me for plus size tips and fashion advice, and I'm no longer providing that content, they're probably not going to stick around unless they are interested in the content that I am throwing out afterwards. But I know for sure my audience will change, but it's all about, for me, just being passionate about creating content of whatever that I'm learning and seeing who also enjoys and likes that content.
So you are a content creator in your personal life, but also in your work life.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if that's a stressful job or not, but I imagine you do have odd hours because social media is on all the time. How do you make time for yourself to get to the gym and to work on your own health and fitness?
I feel very blessed with the company I'm working with because they are very flexible. I work on social media, but I do work on a lot more of like the strategy, and I work on creating the creatives and the content. Versus we do have a dedicated person all about responding, like the customer care and responding to posts and all of that.
Uh-huh.
And we have another person who focuses all on email. So I feel like I'm very blessed that I work with a team that manages different things, and I'm able to manage the things that I'm most passionate about and have that flexibility with time. So when I'm at work, I'm at work. I'm focusing on work. And then after I leave, I'm like, okay, I'm going to CrossFit. I want to focus on my health goals. And then after that, I go home and I'm like, okay, now I want to focus on the brands that I'm working with at the moment, or my blog, or my YouTube, or whatever. So I feel like I am blessed to have that time and it being compartmentalized to all the different things that I have and being able to balance it.
Yeah. How were you able to make that a priority? I mean, obviously the video was a priority and you wanted to be able to say that you completed that goal. But even that, it's like motivation can wane. It can get challenging. It can be easier. You don't live that close to the gym. So how does that become a priority?
I think the biggest thing is just the community aspect that you guys have at CrossFit. I've lost so much motivation with all these other programs that I've done at home, going to LA Fitness, all these different things. But the one thing that really stands out with Move Fitness is the whole community aspect. And it's just such a game changer. And I think that if more people can experience this community that you guys have, they'll enjoy going to the gym more. And that would add on to that motivation to just keep going. So for me, I wasn't the best at working out, but I loved, working out with the coaches and learning so much from them, and everyone having the patience, and then also people working out and then cheering you on and, giving you that motivation to keep going and pushing yourself. And then you just see that progress over time, like being able to do things you couldn't do before. And then that progress adds on to that motivation. I think in the beginning, the community is very important. At least for me, it was important to keep coming back, and then seeing that progress just added on to my motivation to just keep going with CrossFit.
Yeah, I think that's true, and something I've heard from other people on this podcast is that you're going to a place where all of this is normal. It's like all these people here at the gym, they exercise, and it's just part of life. And so like normalizing exercise, I think, is important. Normalizing healthy habits for eating and sleep and that type of thing. So being around those people just makes it easier for most of us to do. Have you found your social life change at all because of the habits you're creating in the gym?
Don't really have one at the moment. I've been
Well,
home.
true, because of COVID. Pre-COVID, though.
Pre-COVID, I don't know. I feel like if I do go out there now, I'll still always have my social anxiety, but I am more confident. I feel better. So if I feel better, or if I look better, I feel better, all of that. And so I don't know. I just haven't been out in the real world yet, or put myself out in the social environment. So I can't really say for sure.
How about like the type of people you're hanging around, or maybe the choices that you're making in social environments? Has that changed? Like I said, being at the gym, you're in a situation where health is prioritized. Mm-hmm. So has that switched in other areas of your life where maybe it's like health becomes more of a priority at work, or health becomes more of a priority when you're out with friends?
I don't know how to answer that, only because I've just been home for so long. And I'm actually, my mom, she's been having her own health issues. So she just finished radiation. So I have been very busy at home with my family, where I really can't focus on a social life or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I wish I could answer that question for you, but I really can't, because I just haven't been focusing on it.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, have you got anything that you would like to add to the conversation?
I can't reiterate this enough, that it's just so important to have that community aspect, as far as when you do pick a program to work out in, as far as like CrossFit. I want people to know that their size shouldn't limit them on and trying CrossFit, and that fitness does, or the concept of fitness is pretty similar to everything else in life. You just gotta take your first step and stick with a program or a regimen and just get better at it. The main thing is, I want people to know that they could do whatever that they want if they set their goals there, and their intentions, and that their mentality might be a challenge or an obstacle, but once you get over that hurdle, like it's all uphill from there.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast. I know you've been back at the gym recently, so it's been good to see you there.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks again for coming on the show, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you for having me.
Come on, man.